All right, everyone, welcome back into another fantasy golf video. Going to be breaking down the Byron Nelson, giving you guys a preview, the top picks and plays, and also giving you guys a first look build. But first, let's get into a quick recap from last week. So, guys, last week something happened. We were able to take down a GPP. Well, I was able to take down GPP using the 9-to-5 lineup optimizer. Pretty awesome to see that. And really, for cash game purposes as well, it ended up being a sweat-free week. I ended up going with a lineup very similar to this, and this lineup in some regards, in some spots as well. A lot of lines with 5 out of 6 across the cut line. The biggest issue was Taylor Moore. That team ended up missing the cut by a bogey on 18. A little bit tilting there. Probably could have been a better week had they not missed the cut. At the same time, maybe I went to taking down a GPP. So interesting there. But another awesome week that makes 5 really good weeks in a row. Obviously, anytime you take down a GPP, that's going to be a good week. But I mentioned that a bunch. I thought last week was going to be a pretty big edge week, and that is exactly what happened. I kept echoing that. Those events like that where people aren't as excited for, the Corrales and obviously the Zero Classic, those are the ones that I really gear up for because there is a bigger edge there. Whereas when we get into an event like this, where specifically this event as well, the Byron Nelson play at TPC Craig Ranch, where it is a much more easier scoring event, where when you look at the past winning scores, and that's going to be the last 3 years here, guys. 4 years ago, or 5 years ago, I guess, they didn't play in 2020. It was played at Trinity Forest, which is a somewhat, you could use that as a comp course if you wanted, but for course history, I'm just looking at the last 3 years. We can see based on the average win score, this is a easier scoring track. And so with it being an easier scoring track, that could lead to a little bit more variance. At the same time, there's not as much here. It has been a slightly more predictable for a tournament that's easy scoring, labeled as easy score. But when we look at it this week, guys, we're going to see that we don't have many great golf play. This is a pretty wide open week that we have, which is that's what makes it fun. And we really are getting some extremely soft prices on some players that shouldn't be that cheap, which to me gets me pretty excited. I hope that they're not chalky because it seems like we're going to get some pretty big edges. So let's just go ahead and get into it. So as you guys can see right off the bat, we got 2 players that you could pay up for, really 3 players that you could pay up for at the same time. Going to be risky. Like a lot of builds are going to start out with Siwoo Kim, and we'll get into why. I want to start though with getting to course history a little bit here. So looking at the course history, one, we're only looking at the past 3 years because this tournament has only been played at this course 3 years. And so we're not going to have a lot of golfers that have played this tournament 3 times, 2 times. We're going to be lucky if we get a golfer that has played this tournament once in some situations. But Jordan has played this event extremely well. You got Seamus Power, who's been playing this tournament extremely well, 19th, 17th, 9th. Alex Noren, who's going to be someone that I think we're going to be on, has played this tournament extremely well. But really, a play that is going to stick out a lot, I think, this week is going to be KH Lee. 50th place finish at this event last year, which was not good, but he's the defending champ 2 times in a row, and now he's playing extremely well again. Ryan Palmer has played this event really well. Matt Kuchar has played this event really well. Mark Hubbard, which was going to be a core play for me last year at this event, ended up withdrawing. And so he's going to be an interesting name this week as well. But we are actually getting a decent amount of golfers that A, have played this tournament, and B, have actually made the cut here a decent amount of time. So that is certainly interesting. Now, we did see Jason Day kind of put it all together last year at this tournament, which I wouldn't say was random, but more on the less predictable side, I guess. Siwoo Kim, a 2nd, miscut, and a 55th. So this is a tournament. This is where that easy scoring nature of it leads to some randomness, where if a golfer is just slightly sharper than what they were last year, obviously that could make a huge difference. And so let's talk about which golfers are sharp right now, jumping into the recent form. And so when I'm looking at recent form and how I developed the recent form rank is looking at a golfer's past 7 starts and their made cut percentage in those past 7 starts. So someone like Alex Noren, and also he has, I think, the longest active made cut streak out of anyone here. So it makes sense why he's popping up as a player that's coming in the best recent form in the field. Okay. His last event, though, however, was this 23rd place finish. That was at the Corrales, which does slightly worry me. But for the most part, we're just going to be looking at him as a strong play at a cheap price tag. Siwoo Kim, he's going to be the top play in the 9-to-5 model, as you guys saw. Really across the board, good long-term form, good short-term form, coming in the best form. Adam Scott, the kind of rule I've developed with Adam Scott is the minute you think you should trust him is the minute you don't want to trust him. So I don't know what we do with him this week, but he's popping up in good form. You got Jason Day there. And then we get into some interesting names. Adam Schenk, Tom Hoagie, Mark Hubbard, Sam Stevens, Keith Mitchell, and Mackenzie Hughes. So that's where this week starts to get pretty interesting, right? Like we're starting to see some less big name players popping up in there. And what's also interesting is a lot of those big name players are not popping up as some of the best stat fits in the field. And so what we're looking at for key stat data is going to be effective scoring. That's that 9 of 5 stat, which measures a lot of different data points, but it's like strokes gained differential, strokes gained total, strokes gained TD, scoring before the cut, and some other stuff as well. That just goes into one collective stat. And so we are going to be using that this week. Greens gained. This is a tournament where you really just need to set yourself up for opportunities. You could look at greens in regulation. You could look at strokes gained approach. I just want golfers who are just peppering greens pretty much. That's what we're looking at. So if you wanted to look at strokes gained approach more than that, you can. Birdie or better percentage. Obviously, this is a tournament where you need to be scoring. We need to be looking at that. And then par 5 scoring, that kind of goes hand in hand with birdie or better percentage as well. Now, this week, I will say the specialist data is a little bit interesting. Like, this is a data point that I think, maybe more so, or we maybe are using it more than a 50-50 decision maker. Maybe factoring in a little bit more than you typically would, because we do have some interesting data points to go off of. One, I think location's kind of a factor. Texas, I do think the length of it being a little bit longer is interesting. You got bank greens as well. That is certainly interesting. TPC style course, probably not as much there, but easy scoring track. Water hazards in play, though. This one is extremely fascinating to me. So there are many water hazards in play this week. We typically do not see 13 plus water hazards in play. We have that this week. So you want to be targeting golfers that are not going to hit it into the water, which Adam Scott, I swear, like this is like what? I swear every time I roster Adam Scott, he is hitting the ball into the water. So that's fascinating to me that he's popping up here. But I do think kind of maybe using this specific data point as a 50-50 decision maker, that is something I might use as well. So let's say, for instance, if I was, in between Adam Scott and let's say, maybe Jason Day as a play, I would probably lean more towards Adam Scott. That would be my way of deciding which player I want to be on more. But I think we want to look at this as a whole collectively. These are the best specialists in the field. You got Adam Scott, Alex Noren, Adam Schenk, interesting there, Siwoo Kim, Jason Day, Tom Hoge, Mackenzie Hughes. Again, the specialist data, that's just combining all the unique characteristics for that week's tournament and putting it into a data point to give us some actual actionable information. Chan Kim, Justin Lauer popping up in there as well. Interesting there. But with that, guys, it's going to get to the top picks for this week. And so, yes, I do see Siwoo Kim as the top play this week. The 9 to 5 model is saying that as well. I agree with that. Now, the question that we have is he going to be a core play? Because what we have to look at is all the data points that are coming in. And what we're going to see is that one miscut at this event 2 years ago is the one outlier data point. Other than that, we're seeing a bunch of green here, right? Recent form's been spectacular, really strong stat fit. Besides that course history, kind of relatively poor course history, besides the second place finish last year, he's coming in checking all the boxes. And so in a week where we are going to experience more variance, I'm kind of fine slightly overlooking that. He does have the Texas ties as well, current resident in Texas as well. That makes me want to be on him a little bit more as well. So Siwoo Kim, yes, I do feel like he's a starting point in your lineups this week. And what's crazy about this week is that you are getting the top play data-wise at under 10K. That has been something that hasn't really been occurring. So I feel pretty good about that as a play. And then from there, yeah, we are looking at Adam Scott. We're looking at Alex Noren. Those two plays are definitely popping up. Adam Scott, 8th and 32nd place finish here. Not the best effort as a whole, but as you saw, going to be the best specialist in the field, 12th best course history, 3rd best form in the field. So it makes sense why he's the 3rd best pick in the 9 to 5 model. And then you also have Alex Noren tied as the best pick in the 9 to 5 model this week. Again, if you guys are unfamiliar with the 9 to 5 model, what the model is doing is it's measuring both safety and upside. We're measuring ability to make the cut, but we're also measuring ability to go out and win. That's how I pull in this, somewhat unique model. And obviously we're taking a peek at everything that matters for that week's third event, but we don't need to get into that too much. But we can see Noren, great course history, 12th and 21st place finish. Extremely good stat fit, guys. 3rd in effective scoring, 2nd in par 5 scoring, 3rd in greens gained. The one concern is that he's not making enough birdies. My biggest concern, however, is actually that finish that he had at the Corrales. That's a little bit concerned that it wasn't better, but he did have a poor round one, and he was able to combat that and really get a top 25 place finish when he could have maybe potentially missed the cut. He's the only golfer this week that I would say is coming in checking all the boxes. Top 10 or better in all the key stats that we're looking at. 14 straight make cuts now. 2 straight make cuts at this event. Checking all the boxes. This is an ideal play on paper. And that's what the data says as well. So using the kind of 9 to 5 AI, we have 3 core plays. Actually, Peter Quest popping up in there. I don't know if I exactly agree with that, but we got Noren and Adam Scott. So we might have a decision to make between Adam Scott and Alex Noren. I'm going to put both of them in there for now, but we might need to adjust. So from there, obviously, we're going to have some decisions as to who we should be targeting after that. You got Benny Ann looking like a great play one of the best birdie or better percentage type players in the field. And he also does pepper a bunch of greens. Like if we were to use the data slicer to just dial in based off of those key stats, like who is top, let's say 20 in both of those? We have 3 golfers in the field that are top 20 in both of those. So Tom Hoagie's another one that we're going to mention. And then you got Keith Mitchell as well, who does feel a little bit too cheap, probably more of a GPP only type play, but certainly interesting in that regard. And the reason I bring it up like that is because, well, we want golfers that are going to be making birdies, but obviously they need to hit greens if they're going to be making birdies. So that's nice to see. Now, Benny Ann, the form has been a little bit hit or miss. Obviously, kind of just a more hit or miss type golfer as is, but really good upside type play. I think that's why the data is factoring in there. You got Jaeger, who may be more of a safe play. You know, he had been someone that really was trending in the right direction towards a win for quite some time, and then he got that win. Scotty Scheffler, you know, that 3-putt that Scotty Scheffler had on 18, that's probably part of the reason as to why. But he was one of those golfers that was due for a win. You know, you play good golf for long enough, you're eventually going to pull through. And that is what happened with Jaeger. It's weird that it's sandwiched in between 2 missed cuts. At the same time, that's the Players' Championship, and that's the Masters. Like, him missing those cuts really isn't too random. So this is going to be a tournament that does fit his game much better. And those missed cuts, I'm really not too worried about. They weren't terrible miscuts either. Now, he does have some concerns there data-wise, like I mentioned, but for the most part, going to be good to go. Now, another extremely interesting play is going to be Tom Hoagie, the second best staff in the field, has good course history here, relatively good, 43rd, 17th, and a miscut. Now, what DraftKings won't show you guys is that he is coming in off of a miscut. That's what this is denoting here. With the Zurich Classic, kind of a different data week. Marked everyone that missed a cut as 100. That's just, they're all getting denoted as that, just so you guys know. But other than that, like, I don't think we need to put too much into that. So I love the fact that the data is still telling us that he is a good play. Still 6th best in recent form, because we look at it, a bunch of top 20 finishes mixed in there. We look at like potential ties. He did go to school in Texas. Now, I have no idea where that's at. Obviously, Texas is a big state, so we don't need to put too much into that. But really like the form from good stat fit, does have course experience. He's someone that I will probably be looking at as an outright bet as well. From there, we obviously have Keith Mitchell that I mentioned as a good GPP play. And data-wise, he is a hit or miss. Like, you're playing Keith Mitchell to potentially get a top 10 finish. Now, he could randomly miss the cut, don't get me wrong there, but he is also going to be a good staff fit in good form, pretty good specialist, and so for the most part, he's a good play on paper. Do like the fact that he has played this tournament twice. You know, I do think having course experience, the data has told us this as well, having course experience is always a key thing. And so from there, we need to get into Mark Hubbard, who to me is extremely mispriced. I don't really get what's going on here. I'm kind of glad he is this mispriced. I'm assuming that DraftKings didn't put any merit into what the golfers did at the Zurich Classic. And even if you don't include that, like, he still has been in good form. He still does have a top 10 place finish over his last 9 starts as well. He is still playing extremely good golf. Top 10 specialist. Has good course history, 32nd and 34th place finish. Recent form-wise, 7th best in the field, 3rd best staff in the field, guys. I mean, look at this. Key stat number 1, which is effective scoring, 2nd best in the field. He's going to be 3rd in par 5 scoring. Not the best in greens gain, a little bit of a concern there. We saw that on 18, I guess, of round 4, where just barely missed a pretty good chip to potentially tie for the lead. But also, he is top 10 in birdie or better percentage as well. So really just across the board, Mark Hubbard is looking like a spectacular play. And so he's going to be the next player that I recommend like putting into a build. He might actually be like the first player I go out of my way to target. So average salary remains 6.5. We are most likely going to have to adjust here. Probably won't be able to fit in 3 studs. Probably going to have to do more of a fair and balanced build there, potentially get off of, you know, some plays there. But let's continue on. We have 2 plays here that I really like. Chan Kim, who has been making a decent amount of cuts now. Really decent staff as well. Top 12 in the field. 16th in recent form. Has been playing much better. And the nice thing about him is, like, his bad weeks haven't been terrible. Like, we can see 67, 68, 61st. And so to get a golfer that's made 9 out of 11 cuts on the PGA Tour at 7.6, that has been playing extremely well, including last week where, yeah, him and his partner did fall off on Sunday. That was pretty unfortunate. Really kind of annoying. Like, real quickly, guys, other than taking down the GPP last week, and I don't want it to seem like I'm complaining here, because obviously I'm not, but man, so many of the optimal plays, or like the safe plays, have been having terrible Sunday finishes. It's been so extremely tilted. So he was one of those players, and you just hope that that gets corrected here shortly for that stuff not to continue to happen. But he's a really good play on paper. Really love the price tag. The only thing about him that I don't like is that he hasn't made a start here. So if you wanted to go with someone like the data likes Peter Quest, and I'll get into that in a second, but you got Justin Lauer here, who's also going to be a good-looking play on paper. Has made the cut here, okay? Love that there from him. 4 straight made cuts now on the PGA Tour. Also has multiple top 10 finishes over his last 9 starts. Love to see that there from him as well. Key stat-wise, pretty even keel across the board. Kind of fine with that. 2 made cuts here. At this price tag, to begin someone that looks like a made cut on paper, that is extremely interesting to me. Really love the form. Good enough stat fit. Played this course twice. Made the cut twice. Really solid play on paper as well. And so, yes, what do we do with Peter Quest? So just as an FYI, guys, I'm not pulling in any Korn Ferry Tour data into this data set. So when we see that he's popping up with a 9th, a 10th, and 13th place finish, that's going to be the reason as to why. He did finish 14th at this event last year. Okay, so we can see recently on the PGA Tour has been playing well. Wasn't playing well on the Korn Ferry Tour. Not playing terribly maybe, but it's weird, right? Like, wouldn't he not have top 10 finishes? But he has been able to take advantage of those opportunities that he has been given. He's played well. Maybe someone can look at the data like him. I'm probably going to bump down his fantasy points projection just as an FYI. Actually, maybe not. It's only pulling in 75 or so memaybe not. Maybe we won't have to do that, but still decent. Andrew Novak, decent play on paper. Joseph Bremlich, 3 straight solid finishes here. Can't really ignore him. Nate Lashley has played this tournament well. He's been decent thus far this season. Max Gracerman, 2 top 10 finishes over his past 4 starts, something we can't ignore. Matt Kuchar likes Texas, plays well in Texas, something we can't really ignore as well. But I want to get into 2 plays from last week that, kind of stood out to me last week, and I think are going to be good plays as well. We got Jacob Bridgman here, who has been playing some pretty good golf. Recent form ranked 21st in the field, and you're getting a player that ranks top 21 in recent form at $7K. That to me is pretty appealing. And we look at data-wise, really not that many concerns. A miscut recently, but multiple top 25, top 30 finishes mixed in there. Another miscut as well. But for the most part, let's see what those events were. Valero Texas Open, I guess, don't like that. It's a harder scoring track, though. And Valspar Championship, 2 harder scoring tracks. So maybe he just doesn't play well at hard scoring events. Something to potentially note. But I like that when he's on, we are getting top 25 finishes. That is pretty awesome. So a play that I don't think we should ignore, should be something that you have exposure to. Then another play that I think is worth looking at is going to be Chandler Phillips as well, who, for the most part has been playing really well this far this season. 7 out of 10 made cuts. Look at the 905 mile, only top 50. Not as good of a play as Bridgman on paper, but at the same time, pretty solid thus far this season. Again, don't love the fact that he missed the cut at the Valero Texas Open, but a different event. Like the Valero Texas Open is a hard scoring event. This is the easy scoring event. It's a totally different type of course, type of mindset really as well. So, I don't know if we need to put too much stock into that. Now, I'm not saying that you need to play Wesley Bryan, but I'm pretty sure his brother, the Bryan Bros, I'm pretty sure that's his brother as well. I haven't really watched their YouTube channel ever, but I'm pretty sure his brother's playing in this event as well. So I don't know, maybe there's some good mojo going on there, ranks decently well. But what's kind of the common theme that we're seeing here as we kind of pivot into a first look build? It's going to be that there are a lot of slightly different routes you can go lineup path-wise. Like last week, kind of a more simple lineup path. You knew the 4 plays you wanted to be on the most, or teams you want to be on the most. This is a more wide open week, which is going to make it more difficult. Like I probably will go off of Adam Scott there so I can get Siwoo Kim, Alex Noren, and then we have 7.5 left over. Like I already feel pretty comfortable with that, and it does open up a decent amount. Maybe we do go Peter Quest. Kevin Newsom that can get hot. Like I'm kind of fine with those plays. You got Novak there that was kind of popping, Nate Lashley that was kind of popping. Like for now, I'll go with what the data was saying. Peter Quest, I don't exactly love that, like I just said, but kind of okay with that. I mean, that's part of the week that we have. And maybe you hate Quest so much that you don't want to play him. Maybe you just go down a little bit more so that you can like pivot off of Kim or Lauer to get up to, can we get up to Keith Mitchell then? Like who do we have to get off from? Probably not. That probably won't work. I don't think we need to go 2 studs and duds this week. I do like Cage Lee this week. He's someone I didn't mention. Has been playing well. Played well last week. Valero Texas Open was terrible, but other than that, decent. Like he's a decent flyer. Obviously loves this track. I don't mind him as a play. But yeah, I do think fair and balanced is going to be the way to go. But let's actually see what the data is saying. Seeing if the data agrees with me. Let's pull up the 9-to-5 lineup builder. And so real quickly, let's see if there's any plays that I don't want to be on there being pulled in too much. Not really. I mean, we're good. I don't know. You need to do 2 data points for this to run. So I'm giving zeros to the guys that withdrew. And so what we're going to do, 3 unique players, 30 or so % max exposure, then we're good to go. We're going to run this. And so here we go. This is what the 9-to-5 lineup builder, GPP winning lineup builder, spit out to me. Noren, Yeager, Mark Hubbard, Thompson, Doug Gim, which I don't mind Doug Gim. He's fine. And Justin Lauer. So somewhat on par with what we were seeing there. Davis Thompson's a fine flyer. He ranks out pretty well. Definitely more of a GPP only play. And these are the exposures to the play. So it is saying what I said, though. Like it's I know we did 30% max exposure, but it is really spreading that out to the point where it is saying that's going to be a fair and balanced week. What you are seeing here as well is not paying up for those top end guys, which it makes sense. They're not projected to do as well, but certainly interesting there as well. And then we just look at who is the data telling us is a good statistical outright bet. This is going to be based off the past 2 year seasons of winners, which it's been pretty good thus far this season. I kind of wish I blindly was just using this. At the same time, we've seen obviously Scotty win and now Rory and Shane Lowry win. Like a lot of the favorites win recently. But Siwoo Kim, yeah, obviously a play that makes a lot of sense as a win. I'm perfectly fine with that. And then possible other outright bets. The list gets bigger. I think I'm going to go Norn. I think I'm going to go Benny Ann, Mark Hubbard for sure, and then maybe Keith Mitchell as well. That'll be a video I come out with tomorrow there for you guys though. Now that's going to be all for this video. I do want to say thank you guys for watching. If you guys can hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, I appreciate that. Trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. That's actually a way in which I can start making money on the channel, full disclosure. It'd be nice to do that. But that's going to be all for today's video. Appreciate you guys being here. If you guys want access to any of the tools that you saw available in this video, head on over to 9to5sports.com. Make sure to hit that notification bell before you leave this video as well. Appreciate it, guys. Thanks for watching. Let's have a good slate. And as always, let's keep cashing.